You know that feeling of getting old whenever something that was at one point in time brand new and interesting is now going to be soon a decade old?
Mind-blowing!
Well, by the time GTA 6 gets released, one of those things will be the original Heist DLC for GTA Online. Now this was the first major content update to be added to GTA Online and would forever act as a standard for people to compare future DLCs to. Even today, we still make regular use of the weapons and vehicles that this content update added, and yet we don't really remember it for the vast array of missions that it introduced. Before this content update came to fruition, the only real way that we could make money in-game was to constantly repeat contact missions or races or death matches over and over again, so it was definitely a breath of fresh air. But do the missions featured as part of this content update hold up today? Well, I thought about this and instead decided to make a ranking list for every mission in the GTA Online Heists update, including every setup mission as well as every heist mission to be ranked back to back. Now this isn't really something that you should take super seriously, and I urge you to leave a comment if you ever disagree on anything, so without further ado, here is every GTA Online heist missions ranked back to back. So let's begin with number 1. What is the worst mission in Heists? The Bronze Turd Trophy gets awarded to Fleeca Job Scope Out. Yeah, I think this one is pretty obvious. Of course it's to be expected that the first mission in a series of missions will be the most boring and will require the least amount of skill to complete, but come on, the very first mission of the standalone story mode involves you getting knee-deep in the midst of a heist, and that worked really well as a first mission. But in this, you're nothing more than a chore boy. You're just driving Lester the Molester around to look at a bank, and then you drive cross-country just to pick up some gear. Boring! The fact that you have to play this introductory mission every time you want to try a criminal mastermind challenge only makes it even worse. Next up we have Prison Break, Bus. In this mission, literally all you do is steal a bus and then remove a wanted level to then bring the bus to a parking spot. How boring. What's worse is that you can cheese this mission by getting in the bus, then back out, getting in fast cars to hide from the police, and then getting back into the bus for an easy and less troublesome completion of the mission. Boring! Now on to Series A funding. Weed. This mission isn't too terrible. All you really have to do is just take out a few guards and then steal a truck. The main problem with this mission is that you have to drive the truck across such an enormous distance, and it's just so boring. At least while you do it, you have plenty of time for you and your friends to talk about which anime waifu is hotter and why, and also argue with each other about which waifu is the best, causing one of you to bash into the truck, sending it off the road, causing a mission failure. Either that or nothing interesting happens for 5 minutes, which itself is extremely boring. Speaking of boring, Prison Break Plane is probably 30% actual mission, with you taking out some guards and then stealing a plane, with the rest being waiting for the pilot to deliver the plane to the destination. Again, this makes for plenty of time for you and your friends to discuss important matters. Pacific Standard Signal. Yet another mission where more of the time is spent travelling to and from the location than actually doing the mission. You have to make your way all the way up to this island here, which would take a hella long time if it were not for the hidden helicopter that players usually tend to steal to make the mission pass by slightly less slowly. Even so, with the helicopter, it's quite a way to even begin the mission, which all it really involves is just shooting up a bunch of guards. It's not all too bad though, as there is a bit of action on the way back out as you pick up Arby Schwarzenegger, but it's still a really long trip that you have to make. It's so boring! I know GTA 5 is supposed to be a vast map experience, but this is not how you use it. Again, another mission which gives you plenty of time to discuss important matters. Pacific Standard Vans is a boring mission. It's also pretty poorly designed, as two people can get away with being away from the keyboard the whole duration of the mission. You go around tracking and tracing vans to then take a picture of the registration plates to then steal the one that's actually needed to complete the mission. I think the idea was to have two people driving and then two people riding shotgun so that the passenger of said vehicles can more easily take the pictures than the driver can alone. But it's easy enough to do everything yourself that it kinda obsoletes the need for a guy riding shotgun. Next up we have Fleeca Job Kuruma. This mission is actually not too bad. You go in and take out a bunch of guards who are defending a Kuruma, and then take the Kuruma back home. What makes this mission low on the list is how short it is. It really doesn't take that long to beat this mission. If this mission were to be included as part of a later content update, I could almost guarantee that they would have added something in there to make it more interesting, like the car has like a lockout system or a bomb that you have to drive a certain speed to stay active. You know, something like that we've already been accustomed to in later DLCs. But I guess because this was released so early, it doesn't really have any of those interesting features. And now Pacific Standard Job. Bikes. You go in and steal some bikes. Whee! Admittedly, there is a bit of shooting that takes place, but really the only actionable part of the mission is the part where you're actually riding away from the site on the bikes. You can fall off the bikes, leading to a lot of tensious moments, if that's even a word, but sometimes the mission can be rather annoying to play, constantly falling off bikes if you're a noob, as well as the constantly spawning bad guys that seem like they come out of a clown van. It's an okay mission at heart, but it's kinda short to be fair. And now on our first heist finale for the video, the Fleeca Job. If you look at the heist finale as just a mission, there really isn't that much to it. You just go in the building, drill out some holes, and then rush back into an invulnerable car to then casually drive to a location to get picked up. It's not challenging, there's no sense of urgency, you're not really being constrained in any way at all, you're just too powerful. On top of that, it kinda oversells the Kuruma in a good way for the players, but in a bad way for the game designers. Players who will have beaten this mission will have unlocked the Kuruma's lowered price. That, along with seeing the capabilities of the Kuruma, makes it a no-brainer buy for everyone who comes across the vehicle for the first time. They just end up buying the Kuruma and then ruin any sort of challenge for any mission moving on. On top of that, the mission is short and really does a poor job of selling the heist content update for what it really is. Yeah, there is the thing where you have to use that weird app where you go through a maze to hack the system and whatnot, but there's not really any sort of urgency with this thing, you can just take your time doing this. And now on to Prison Break Station, our first multi-role mission in 2 teams, but the objectives are still quite similar. You just go to a spot, take out some guards, take the thing, hide. The worst things about these missions is that you can only beat the mission as fast as the slowest team, so be prepared to talk about important matters while the other teams struggle on to complete their half of the mission. Series A funding Coke is a mission that is fun for half of the team. 2 players go into a yacht and go in to take out some guards to steal some coke, while the other 2 wait around in a helicopter and argue about which waifu is the best and why. It's an okay mission, but nothing really memorable in my opinion, especially if you're one of those guys who are stuck in the helicopter. Pacific Standard Hack. This mission is fun for 3 of 4 people. 3 people go in and have a street fight with a bunch of bad guys, while the person who drew the short straw drives all the way to the factory to pick up a van which is to be parked next to the van that the others are trying to get to, then escape while under fire to get to the goal. It's fun for most of the team, but it's very short and, you know, it's all very predictable. Series A funding. Bikers. A stealth mission which makes this mission pretty fun with the usual tropes of the bad guys employing the most visually impaired guards to defend the compound.
So, tell me, John, why do you think that you would make for a great applicant for the role of the armed guard for the drug cartel?
Well, I do have a good work ethic. I'm enthusiastic about the role. I do have some slight disabilities with my vision. I can only see like 10 feet in front of me.
Do you have working eyes and ears?
Yeah.
Then you are hired, good sir.
Take them all out and prepare for a car chase of mediocre proportions. Depending on how easy it is, you may or may not have time to discuss important matters. Series A funding heist finale. The heist finale is one mission which I really couldn't decide whether to put it high or low in this list. On one hand, it's a non-stop action mission as you defend some trucks as you make your way up to the meetup point. On the other hand, it's a turret section for the entirety of the mission for one player, and for the other players, it's just a driving sim in overly slow vehicles for a good 5 minutes. So I guess it makes it semi-fun for one player and boring as hell for the others. I mean, it really depends on if you like driving or not. Personally, I hate driving slow cars. It just really annoys me. Whenever I'm in my insurgent having to defend a slow vehicle, I always find myself pushing the bloody things. And this is supposed to be a heist finale. Couldn't they have come up with something more interesting? Maybe add some more parts to the mission to add more to the experience? I don't know. They could have added something like, I don't know, it's like a super powerful chopper that you have to take out, and everyone has to get out of their vehicles at one point and then team up to take it down or something. That would have been pretty cool, but no, it's just a drive from one point to the other while one person defends the others. It's just kind of boring, really. And now onto the Humane Labs raid, key codes. Now we're moving on to the missions which I would consider to be at least semi-enjoyable moving onwards, so let's start off with Humane Labs key codes. You make your way to a location and prepare to take on numerous bad guys. What makes this mission actually fun is the fact that it forcefully takes away any vehicles that you had on you, including the Kuruma, so you will actually need a tiny bit of skill to make it out on top. All the different vantage points that you use, it just makes it a rather interesting mission to play in my opinion. Pacific Standard Job, Convoy. Take on the military as you steal a truck loaded with thermite, or whatever this thing is. This one is pretty darn fun, even if you use the likes of the Kuruma to cheese it. There is a good amount of heat as you begin the attack, till the point where you manage to escape, and at least one of you will have to leave the safety of the Kuruma to be able to carry out the job of delivering the truck, so there is a slight hint of danger to be had. And also, who doesn't enjoy shooting up the military? Pacific Standard Heist Finale. As the very final heist of the series, I can't really say it lives up to what it really needs to. Yes, it has everything it needs, a bank robbery, copious amounts of cops to avoid, and an epic escape through means of a jump off of a cliff. But it all just kind of feels a bit... You see, all this mission really boils down to is running for a little bit while taking out cops as you go. You get on some motorcycles and then using the motorcycles in a chase bit to reach the end, which A, wouldn't really be a realistic viable option in real life since motorcycles would be vulnerable as hell, and B, it kind of feels like Rockstar designed it intentionally to be this way just so that they could force the team to lose money. Now thankfully, the heist always had an exploit allowing you to use the Kuruma to escape instead, but even ignoring that, driving all the way up the north of the map just seems kind of boring. Surely there must have been a more exciting way to have done this, like, I don't know, using the sewer tunnels, and then maybe there could have been like a bit where the cops block the exit and then you have to shoot your way out, ending up with the part where you end up having to hide or disguise yourself as the police to make an escape. I don't know, it just seems kind of rushed is all. Wet work as part of the prison heist. This mission sees the team taking out numerous targets, picking up documents and evading the cops. It's simple and pretty fun. The mission doesn't overstay its welcome, and the challenge is fair in my opinion. This video is sponsored by Hyper Resupply. If you need a boost in money in either GTA Online or Forza Horizon 5, then you can choose from one of many different services that they offer. PlayStation, Xbox and PC are all supported, and if it's too good to be real, then you can just check out the Trustpilot scores for maximum reassurance. Check the affiliate link in the description below and use the promo code PRG for 10% off your order. Trash Truck from Series A funding. Probably the most infamous mission in the entire content update. Remember back in the day where you'd see nothing but this mission being shown whenever someone would be trying to invite people to play? I certainly did, and I can see why. This mission is hard as the balls of trash that you'll be shoving into the truck. There's loads of gunfighting, it's long, the time constraint is very short, it's your worst nightmare. As such, you need a team of highly competent players as well as a game plan to be able to beat this mission comfortably. You can't exactly cheese this mission with a Kuruma either. The mission expects all players to be on the trash truck at all times. I mean, you can bring a Kuruma along to help you out, but it involves all the players getting on and off the truck and then into the Kuruma to then have to get out of the Kuruma and then back on the truck. It's a real faff-on. Worse still is that this mission has no checkpoints. I mean, it's not a huge issue if you're doing Criminal Mastermind, but for the casual player, especially those who are joining randoms, this mission can be a real kick in the balls. That being said, I do actually sorta like this mission. It's a challenge, and that makes it sort of fun. You have loads of combat, there's waves of enemies coming at you, in vehicles, you have to balance defending yourselves with picking up trash. There's a good gameplay loop here, and I think more missions could have benefited with this. From an infamous mission to an infamous heist finale. The Prison Break. The Prison Break finale is long, difficult, and has no checkpoints again. It also has a few things wrong with it, but one thing at a time. The objective is to break Baldy Four Eyes out of the slammer. One person goes in a plane, another hijacks a helicopter, and the other two go inside the prison. The mission is fun for everyone except for the pilot. The pilot's job is to evade fire from enemy fighter aircraft, a task that would be absolutely impossible in real life, but because the pilots are completely brain dead, they don't pose any challenge at all. This makes the pilot's job pretty damn boring because of how easy and monotonous flying the airplane around in circles is for like 20 minutes. But at the same time, when the time comes and the pilot has to step in to pick everyone up, they have the most challenging job of finding a spot to land to get everyone inside and then fly off again without crashing or taking too much fire. Yes, you can use the nearby airport to make a safe landing, but that comes with the downside of having the cops charge at you very easily from all directions. Personally, we like to use this hill here as it allows us to very easily make a safe landing and gravity assisted takeoff while also evading the cops a little easier. The real fun part though is literally everyone else's job. The demolitionist gets to blow up planes and the people who are on the inside get to shoot up all the guards. And as I say, this mission is a challenge and there's no checkpoint, so failure can be a major setback for anyone who is trying to grind off their first completion of this heist finale, which is again why we saw an awful lot of the Prison Break finale as a randomer search for heists. That of course being said, this mission is definitely fun, so long as you can avoid the setbacks of failing like a complete noob. Next up, we have Humane Labs Valkyrie. This mission is undoubtedly much more tame than the Prison Break heist, but at the same time it's also not a pain in Lester's flatulent neck. You break in, Kuruma your way through copious amounts of guards, and then board a Valkyrie to blow up some helicopters. It's non-stop action all the way, which makes this mission a nice quick piece of action, and I can't really fault anything wrong with the mission other than the fact that this is it's a bit of a short mission. Humane Labs Insurgents is a mission that I think encompasses much of the classic 3D GTA formula. You have an objective, and with it, numerous ways in which you can tackle a problem. The objective is to steal some insurgents, of which are deep in the middle of the quarry, that are being guarded from all sides. It's up to the team how they want to handle the mission. You could either go up in the mountains and snipe them all very methodically, or you could go in guns blazing and just blast them all away with machine guns. It's up to you, and that's what I like about this mission. Then once you take the insurgents, you have a quick little segment where you have to escape and defend, and it makes for an overall enjoyable mission. Speaking of enjoyable missions, the missions from here on out are very fun. Starting with Humane Labs Raid, Deliver EMP. Although fun, it is a rather infamous mission. Humane Labs Deliver EMP is a mission that pretty much requires the team to be able to voice chat with each other in real time, else face the high risk of blowing your cover and having to restart from checkpoint. When you do have the right setup, this is a pretty damn fun mission, which involves double sniping guards as a team, which requires skill and good teamwork, which is what I always like in a mission, and it just kind of gives you the feeling of like twin agents, like sneaking into the compound, taking them out through planned, precise aiming and skill and gunplay and random other words I'm trying to come up with on the fly. It's a fun mission. Steal Meth from Series A funding is a mission that takes advantage of the fact that you can't entirely rely upon the noob tactic of using Kurumas all the time. One player has to go in and steal a truck that is filled to the brim with explosive material and has to drive it very carefully to avoid it from exploding. You also have a very limited time constraint on your hands, so you really do have to move pretty damn fast. The balance of trying to keep the truck in one piece, as well as keeping all the copious amounts of guards from trying to blast your ass, it's a very tense mission, but that also makes it rather fun in my opinion. Humane Labs EMP. What is there to say wrong about it? It involves a unique location in the form of the Navy carrier ship, you're gunfighting through the hangars, making your way up to the top deck, stealing some planes to then dogfight enemy fighter jets. It's a culmination of everything that makes missions in GTA great. My only criticism about this whole thing would be how ludicrously terrible the AI is at being fighter pilots. I mean, are you telling me America's greatest pilots can't handle a bunch of street thugs who haven't even dressed up in the correct flight suits so that they don't black out? Come on, it's a ridiculous premise, but that doesn't really detract much from an otherwise incredible heist mission. Speaking of incredible heists, the #1 spot for the best GTA Online original heist mission is... Yes, we have awarded the #1 spot to the Humane Labs heist finale. This mission has everything. Multiple roles, ground combat, vehicle combat, swimming. The objective is to make your way into the Humane Labs to then steal some stuff and then get the hell out of there. This, among a couple of other times, are the only times in which you actually can visit the Humane Labs interior, because in free mode, Rockstar actually patched out the interior of the Humane Labs so that you can't just access it in free mode, which sucks. But this mission involves you navigating tight corridors for close quarters gunfights, a scuba dive to escape the facility, and then an escape via helicopter to make an epic getaway. My only criticism about this mission is that the intended location to land the helicopter to pick up the other team is ludicrously dangerous. You have to land the helicopter very carefully to avoid an accident, and accidents this late into a criminal mastermind can be rather... sucky. This mission has the perfect amount of challenge, length, it features a unique location, you can't use the Kuruma making it more interesting, and it requires good teamwork from all players, making this, in my opinion, the best mission in the original Heist content update. And with that, we've concluded every mission in the original Heist content update. Let me know what you guys think about this, and let us know what you thought, which missions were better in other places, or which mission you thought was the best. But in the meantime, I thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you around, folks.